Good
That's
level?
Good level, yep.
All right. Roland?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So please start off by telling us your name, and would you also spell it?
My name is Marilyn Ann Hetzel, Marilynann, Hetzel. I'm also known as Cookie by most people, Cookie.
Thank you. And where do you work, and what is your title?
I work at Metropolitan State University of Denver. I'm a professor of theater, director of theater, and chair of the theater department.
Thank you. And explain a little bit about your job.
My job has grown over the years. This is my 30th year. I was hired in 1997-98 to grow a theater program that included musical theater. That was the main focus. And at that time, theater was a subset under speech communication. Through many years and strategic thinking and perseverance and sustenance and sustaining action, we became a theater department in February of 2009. We actually had our first theater degree separate in February of 2003, and we became accredited with the National Association of Schools of Theater, NAST, in 2012. So we are a freestanding theater department, and we have a focus on theater as equipment for living. We see theater as having applications in all walks of life, and one doesn't need to seek to be a professional actor or technician in order to have the skills apply to any other profession. So we work with all kinds of students who are theater majors, theater minors. We also have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Applied Theater Technology and Design, and a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Music Theater. So my job is running all of that, managing all of that, but I also teach and I also direct, and I also work with Kaiser on our shared partnership for the Kaiser Permanente MSU Denver Educational Theater Partnership, and I have several other theater companies that have toured over the course of these 30 years.
Great. How long have you been in your role?
I've been in my role as chair of the theater department since 2009.
And why are you passionate about the work that you do?
I'm passionate about the work that I do because there's a great deal of interest in, I have a great deal of interest in research, problem solving. I like to direct because I like to see the shapes and the text emerge through a physical, visual performance. I love to see students grow and develop and feel strong. One of my goals is for them to be self-centered in the most positive way so that they feel strong about their choices and strong about how they want to persevere to realize their goals. And we also espouse lifelong learning. We tell them what we do here in the department may not all be as meaningful as you might think in the moment, but 10 years they're going to be walking down the street and go, oh, that's what she meant. I can use that. So I love to see the growth. And I've been here long enough now that we have a lot of connections. We remain connected with our students even when they graduate. They're all over the world now. And anywhere a Metro student from this department travels, there are other Metro alums who have grown up, matured, learned through the same basic foundation that theater is equipment for living. And also that people are important as whole people first. We teach theater as a skill. It is not who you are. It is one of the wonderful exploratory, skill building, lifelong learning types of fields one can continue to work in your whole life.
Great, thank you. How has Kaiser Permanente collaborated with you and supported the work that you do?
I've worked with the Kaiser Permanente Educational Theater Partnership for about years, I believe. We're starting our 9th year. They came, Brian Carper came, and we visited one summer to talk about the possibilities of having students work in a professional touring theater forum, but also be open to further training. I consider the training equal to graduate school, to tell you the truth. And while we expect all of our students to be on time, be focused, come prepared, and so on in everything that we do, the reality of this partnership is they'd better do it or they won't be long with the partnership. And Kaiser also shared that view of working with whole people who do theater and opening up opportunities for networking. They shared my view that we want to start young with children, that sometimes very young children are not expected to do things they're capable of. Such things as, for example, Shakespeare. The 7th graders, the 5th graders, the 4th graders, they get it. But something happens by the time they get to college and it becomes a scary thing. Well, they're not scared. They're not frightened to share all kinds of information with all different ages, age appropriate in terms of the language. So we found that we shared the values of the theater's equipment for living, work with the whole person first, that theater can be a venue for social change, but not a recipe for social change, that there must be a good story, there must be a wonderful connection, there must be heart. Our students needed to really believe in what they were sharing with the students, which is a challenge for performers who are performing again and again and again. So through that course of 8 years, going on 9 years, we have performed for over 100,000 students in the metropolitan area. I think we've also gone to Wyoming, we've gone to other places in Colorado. And this partnership allowed our students to meet a much greater audience than they would meet in a college, university, theater program. And that's very exciting. They have received a graduate education because they're also doing training as well as doing the shows and contributing to the shows, helping to write some of the shows. They are learning that children's theater is the hardest theater to do, that you have to be honest, you have to be focused, you have to be in the moment all the time. They've had networking opportunities. Many students have gone on to work professionally and continued with Kaiser Permanente in other forums. And they have been nurturing to students who come along and are going to be doing the program. They've been mentors. It has just had everything one could possibly wish, in my view, for community engagement, student learning, grown-up collaboration. All of us have learned so much and grown ourselves as we share ideas, share techniques, share our hopes for the students. So I can't speak highly enough of what a wonderful collaboration it has been on multiple levels. Plus, it brings a sense of prestige to the school for having students who are considered accomplished to this degree to be, I hate to use the word semi-professional, because all the expectations are professional, and that they learn how to comport themselves when they leave this school in a tremendously professional manner. What does that mean? They show up on time, they come prepared, they work with lots of different people, they understand conflict management, they understand creative problem solving, they understand risk taking, and they understand how to take care of themselves for the long haul, because actors are athletes. And they've discovered new interests that they never knew they had before. So it has been a wonderful cornucopia of both expected and unexpected benefits.
Thank you. Can you briefly explain how that process works? So does Laura come to you and say, we have this play that we're touring this year, we need people to audition, and et cetera?
Well, every spring we have what we call an interest meeting. And company members from the former company come and talk about their experience. The plays have changed over the years. The first one was dealing more with health issues like how much screen time, drinking water, fruits and vegetables, etc. Last year's play evolved working with pressure points and how students can deal with the pressures of school, the pressures of community, the pressures of parents, and so on. So it's not like they say we have this play. It's more that we have this play and we want to find students who will collaborate with us on making it a better play, making it a play that addresses our community's issues. And so at that interest meeting, we talk about all those experiences. Laura presents some experts. She also very clearly outlines the fundamental philosophies and expectations of Kaiser Permanente as a whole. And students know that once they are working with Kaiser Permanente, they need to model their role models, not only for the theater program, but also for Kaiser Permanente. Through the course of the years, we've had company numbers of 8, then we did 4, which wasn't quite enough because you don't have contingency, but they can all go in one van. 5, now we're up to 5, we stayed 5, and now we're moving forward with 5. So after the interest meeting, we then have a audition here. And students have to prepare what Laura might want them to do, such as a simple monologue. They work on different improvisational projects. I usually go to the auditions as well, and we practice what we preach. We play together in terms of warm-ups and things that they would be doing as they developed plays. And we have probably one of the most important things is interviews. Learning a little bit about each student, and also determining whether they have the commitment and the resilience and the fortitude to keep moving forward even when the old going gets tough, which sounds a little bit stereotypic, but the going does get tough, and it's at that point that they can't quit and they have to stay focused. And they have to follow through. And they're always rewarded. They're always rewarded with great responses and the satisfaction of having solved problems and worked through them. Don't quit is something, my father had given me a wonderful poem years ago that sometimes I hand out to students. It's that sense that, the clouds come, but that silver lining can be in those clouds. And it might have helped that he was a Marine too, boy, you keep moving forward. So in a way, our theater program has that very focused and get it done process, but also a sensitivity to folks as human beings. Kaiser Permanente also reflects and illustrates an important viewpoint of Metropolitan State University of Denver. We talk about cadre, and cadre is community, access, diversity, respect, and entrepreneurialism. And our partnership with Kaiser Permanente is a tremendous example of the cadre point of view.
Thank you. You talked a little bit about how it changes the students' minds and a way of thinking, or even their development of maybe a different career, etc. Can you talk a little bit more about how this collaboration has changed students and made a difference in their lives?
Well, some students weren't sure how they would work with children. They hadn't had a lot of children in their lives. They're a little fearful of children. Learning how to perform for audiences of 400 or 500 and still have each child in there feel like they're performing for them has changed their view of how smart children are, how open they are to new information, how they want to learn, and how they want to play in the most positive way. Play has gained such a dismal reflection from people. They think if it's play, you're not learning, but play is where you learn. And so it's the most positive view of playing. And so some of them have actually decided, I want to be a teacher, or I want to work in children's theater, or they gained a greater empathy about what teachers have to do And they reflect on their own lives coming up through elementary and high schools, and how they then have a new mission of how they want to help those who are coming along now. So that's one very positive way. Other students who thought they wanted to be teachers realized they didn't have the stamina for it. They didn't have the sense of humor. They didn't have the ability to take a breath first and then move forward. They develop it and have to through the performance in the company, but it really made them rethink their goals. Some folks decided that they wanted to learn more about community engagement and how they could go back to their own communities and help them. Students work at safe houses. They work at shelters. They work with community centers and after-school programs. And so some of them have been inspired to use their skills doing that and have gotten employment doing that. And have gone to other states where Kaiser Permanente is working and supported those particular programs. So it's been very positive in that sense. And they also do all the technical work, and they have to do all the loading and unloading. So they've gotten a great appreciation for what it's like to be on the road. And some of them want to do that. That's what they'd love to do more of. And some of them realize, I don't know if I can be on the road and sustain that over a long haul. But some of them decided they wanted to learn more about technical areas, applied theater technologies, and recognize that there are jobs in that field. It has never not opened the students' minds to new ideas, better research processes, honest self-reflection, and honest interfacing with their colleagues. So those have been very, very, very strong lessons that have come out of all of these companies. And respect for communities and how they have different ways of doing things, and how to do what is very fundamental to theater, audience analysis, so that we can communicate better and together make things better for everybody in the community.
Great, thank you. So you talked about community engagement, you talked about making things better in the community. Do you have examples that you could share with us of how this work has made a difference in the community?
Well, I have been doing theater for social change, touring companies. I've had about 7 to 10 companies long before Kaiser Permanente came along. They are a bigger forum, a bigger audience, a bigger stage, and really great long-term training. But I have a company now, the Denver, Boulder, and Aurora Water Companies, and One World, One Water, which is a center on MSU Denver's campus, asked if I could create a play that addressed Colorado's unique precipitation patterns and water conservation. And my first answer is always yes, and then it's like, how am I going to do this? But we created a class with 11 students, and the water companies and One World, One Water, which is called Oh Wow, came in for 6 weeks, and we had an intensive training in what are Colorado's precipitation patterns, what do they want people to do, what are simple actions and behaviors that we can do. So after 6 weeks of training, we then had to create a play, which we did, and got feedback, and is it going in the way the educational programs wanted to go. It's an 18-minute play. We have performed it at this juncture for about 10,000 students. The first company was 2015, and it was so successful they have gotten grants for us to continue the company, and in fact have applied to a state grant so that we can perform at water festivals. It's called WaterWise, and the first company was 2015, WaterWise circa 2015. There has been circa 2016, we've had circa 2017, and we may have 2018. The students designed their logo, and it deals with very simple behaviors, from shutting the water off when you're brushing your teeth until you need it, to using a car wash instead of washing your car, picking up your animal waste, not littering, active behaviors students can do. And then we would have a talk back and get from the students what they thought they could do in terms of behaviors, and it's been a very successful company. I also had a company on conflict management. It was called The Vortex. Conflict, Power, and Change. It's about all the steps of how conflict can escalate, and at any point one can make different choices to not have the conflict escalate. That company ran for 2 years, and it brought me to Bonn, Germany, to talk about it. It was theater for change, but it was an exciting story, and it came out of the student stories of conflict. I had the courage to create. We had the Many Faces of Courage, and those were also stories that we toured. Students who had gone through divorce, students who had made different choices instead of committing suicide, students who had survived cancer. We discovered in that company that as long as we didn't use the word divorce or suicide or cancer, we could talk about the stories, and the teachers could listen to those stories, and the students were inspired to go to counselors, to go for help, and the teachers were too. So it's different, it's been different companies. Those are 3 examples of what we've toured. But the most recent one is WaterWise. That may be WaterWise 2018. And think locally and affect globally kinds of changes.
Sure, thank you. What would you tell others who might be exploring a collaboration with Kaiser Permanente?
Well, I would tell them to come with their ideas on how they might collaborate, but then listen and take the time to see how the Kaiser person might view their ideas, and be willing to morph those ideas into something that's mutually beneficial, not only to Kaiser and the collaborator, but then to the community. It took a whole year of us thinking about what we wanted to do before we actually got the first company together. And then we had to be willing to, I don't want to say make mistakes, but take turns that maybe didn't lead where we wanted them to go, until we're still problem solving, and we're creating new plays, so we're not getting stale in any sense of the word, but one has to keep an open mind, one has to keep a sense of humor, and one has to always focus on problem solving, processes, not personalities. So that's what I would advise people to do. Go with an open mind and see what could happen. And if it can't happen now, it might happen at another time. The water company is very crucial right now because of climate challenges, because of Colorado's water challenges. That particular company may not have been successful 10 years ago. It's when all those stars came together, and planets.
Great, thank you. I think we just have one more question. And it's kind of, you can answer it however you like. What makes you thrive, Cookie?
I think always having a problem to solve and a challenge to move through. And in theater, there's no end of that. Theater allows us to study, it is everything. You know, I'm just as interested in quantum physics as I am in theater history, or as I am in styles, or I am in, because it's interesting, because it is lifelong learning, and because we're always growing. And that's, I think, what makes me thrive. And then I learn as much teaching as students learn as we work together. So it's that lifelong learning, lifelong challenges, lifelong problem solving, lifelong nurturing your sense of humor.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
What else?
That was it. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, does that address what you need?
It's great, thank
It's
you.
really good. Thank you.
And as you were talking, it reminded me that we're